Need for Speed. This game series has had a long and storied history with hits, misses, and really, if we're honest, everything in between. Today I'm going to take an in-depth look at Need for Speed Unbound, the brand new game releasing today in fact, by EA and Criterion. Yes, you heard me right, we haven't magically transported back to 2012. Criterion is back in charge of the Need for Speed franchise as of 2022. There have been a lot of games in the Need for Speed franchise. Highs, such as Most Wanted by Criterion, and lows like The Run, some might argue. Not myself, I love that game. And lots of in between. People crave the glory days of Underground 2, and many people are happy never to go back to the hardcore racing sim days of Need for Speed Shift. Is Unbound like these games? Is Unbound anything like what's come before? Let's find out together in my review of Need for Speed Unbound. First up, let's talk about the story. Now, in some Need for Speed games, the story is really important, central to the focus of the game, and in others, not so much. It's taken a backseat to the driving, to the racing, to the pure thrill of the race. So where does this one stand? Where does the story in this game stand? Well, I'll tell you. Folks, the story in this game really reminds me of the story in Need for Speed Payback. It is a very similar style of story, I would say. They've definitely taken some kind of cues from Need for Speed Heat. In fact, I would say there is a lot of this game that feels like Need for Speed Heat. But the main kind of bare bones, the story, is definitely Payback-esque. I would say elements of kind of the more action-orientated games of the past. But this game, I think it takes a lot from Payback. The story is a classic Need for Speed tale, which I won't spoil here, but the prologue to the whole game really gets you pumped up and ready to play. I felt so motivated after I completed the prologue to this story. I was like, damn, this has got me hooked. I am ready to race. I'm feeling the need for speed right now. And from that moment, I was into it. The prologue is really good. It's that classic kind of Need for Speed. You have a really powerful car, and you get to experience the racing, the emotions and everything. It's just it just kneads it all together in a great way, so that you're kind of set up to race. Now, I will say that there are some story elements to this game that maybe I'm getting a little bit too old for. If I could say that this story was like Need for Speed but for Gen Z, I think I would probably be in the right for saying that. It's very kind of it feels very young. It feels like a very young person's game. And I'm sitting here almost 30 years old, racing around in these cars, listening to these kids, talk. And I'm sitting with my controller, I'm like staring dead-eyed at my screen like, am I getting too old for video games? Are they not making video games for me anymore? That being said, cringeworthy moments aside, there are some highs in this story. Every beat is kind of a brand new shock to the system, and it kind of motivates you to race even further. And I really enjoyed that. There are some little side missions away from the main story where you're kind of picking people up, taking them away from the cops, out of the heat. And there are also car missions where you are driving to deliver a car either as quickly as possible or without as much damage as you can do. So keeping the car in pristine condition. It's a lot of fun. I've had a load of fun playing these kind of varied missions throughout the time I've played so far of Unbound. I think for me, I love it when Need for Speed has that story, has these characters, even if they are extremely cringeworthy. Like, I don't really understand why, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but I don't know why ASAP Rocky. I don't know why he's in the game. It's definitely not an aimed at me move, but for the scene that the game is set in, the street racing scene, maybe it's more relevant to those guys. And if you enjoy him being in the game, if that is a selling point to you, I'm not going to knock you. We all like what we like. For me, it was a bit weird. Celebrities in games are always weird, though, I think. So take it how you want. If it's weird to you, it's weird to you. If it ain't, then it ain't. It's fine. A lot of the other characters, they're not really that fleshed out. They're quite two-dimensional. I would say a lot of the characters, you have your evil person, and you have your good person, and the world really is those kind of two colours. Your character, I would say, is a good guy doing bad things to enact revenge. But yeah, you know, they're all kind of flat 2D characters. The characters themselves, I don't find that interesting, which is why I would give the story for Need for Speed Unbound 7 out of 10. It's definitely better than Criterion's previous efforts with Need for Speed in terms of story, like Most Wanted and Hot Pursuit, which basically had no story at all, but it doesn't reach those highs of games like The Run, which is basically just story. I would say it's on par with Need for Speed Heat and Need for Speed the reboot in terms of its story-based merits. Let's talk about graphics. Now this game, let's say it straight away, it's beautiful. It is fantastic looking. I really love the way this game looks. It has a really cool mixture of the environments looking really photorealistic and utilising next-gen. This game is next-gen only, and PC obviously, and you can definitely tell that this wasn't held back by any of the previous systems. On PC it definitely has some issues, definitely has some rendering problems. You're probably seeing that in the gameplay right now. Sometimes things quite far out will render in fairly slowly. But no, the actual environments themselves look fantastic. Lakeshore City, the city in which the game is based, is beautiful. It has very, very varied districts, even within the city itself. And the city is only a small part of the map. There is vast wilderness out there to explore as well. Lots of different types of races. We'll get into that in a bit. Now, the game does keep the day-night cycle from Need for Speed Heat, so you go out in the daytime, there are certain types of races, you go back to your garage to bank your money, and then it's nighttime, and your heat level kind of transfers over from day to night. But the day-night cycle is nice, different types of cops, different scenery. It's nice to see the lighting effects in the nighttime compared to in the daytime, where things tend to bounce off of the puddles and things instead, whereas nighttime you obviously have all those different light sources that can make the game look really beautiful. Another interesting thing about the graphics is the way the characters are designed. So you have this really photorealistic city, and then the characters are kind of like in a cel-shaded cartoon comic book style, and I think it looks really good. It's definitely a unique take on how to do kind of graphical design, art direction, and something we can definitely maybe say about Need for Speed in recent years is that there hasn't been much art direction. Payback was very kind of muddy, and Heat, whilst it had that kind of neon aesthetic, I never really felt like that transferred over into the city itself, whereas Need for Speed Unbound definitely has this kind of gritty, realistic style, also kind of tied with this kind of comic book style, and I think it goes together really well. It definitely, the art direction here is amazing. Another cool thing about the graphics is that when you're driving around, you'll have these flare moments. So when you're jumping over a big old drop, or if you're pressing your boost on the nitrous, these flare effects will happen. You can turn these off in the accessibility settings, by the way, but they're these very cool moments that happen when you're doing something cool in the game, when you're drifting or, you know, pressing the nitrous. They are very, very cool effects. I think they add something to the game that make it seem a little bit more exciting when you're racing, because some races, for example, the latest Grid game, racing itself felt very boring, and these kind of flare effects definitely add to the wow factor of the game. A heavily marketed feature that I think is pretty darn cool, and I'd love Criterion to kind of stick with this in a game where it makes sense. Obviously if you were doing kind of Need for Speed Shift, you wouldn't want this kind of thing, but this is an arcade underground style game, and I think that the flare effects really make a really cool difference, and I love them. So yeah, you've got your cel-shaded characters, you've got your racing effects, and you've got a pretty good looking realistic city. Honestly, the graphics are one of the best things about the game. I really, really like them, and that is why I give the graphics 8 out of 10. I've deducted a few points, a couple of points there, just because on PC the performance is a little iffy. You do have a lot of settings you can change on PC, like DLSS, things like that, but I do think maybe a patch or two is needed to get the performance where it really should be for a kind of a high power PC. Next up, let's talk about customization. Now, Need for Speed has, again, a bit of a rocky history with customization. You had games like Hot Pursuit where there was really not much customization at all in the cars, and then you had games like Underground where you had a little bit more customization options. Now, the actual car customization itself, so for the inside of the car, the engine, it's in a very kind of ladder style of customization, similar to previous Need for Speed games in the past, where you're basically just upgrading parts to the next best part. There's not really a huge choice there. Where it comes to a really good level of customization, I think, is in the way the car looks on the outside. So you can obviously change those skill effects. You can change the body, the bumpers, the wheels, the rims, everything you could think or dream of. There is a lot of customization options, and similar to Forza Horizon, there's actually a livery editor that you can use to change the way that the wrap looks, and you can make pretty cool designs on there. I've seen some pretty damn cool community made designs, and you can obviously go online to download those to your car, so that's a great touch. And I think there's also body kits that you can get from speed hunters and different kind of manufacturers. I think the customization isn't a huge focus here. Like, the way the car looks, that's definitely a huge focus, but not potentially the way that the components make the car different. There are some settings you can change. You can change how much your car drifts, or if it sticks to the road. That's a big feature that Criterion have been touting about this game, is you really have a lot of tuning options for the handling. So whichever handling you like, if you like more Criterion Burnout style drifting controls, or if you would prefer to your car to kind of stay where it is and grip those corners so that you're not sliding around everywhere, which is great. That's a nice level of customization for sure. You can also customize your own character. There's brands like Puma and, you know, all these streetwear brands, which is definitely not my style. I don't really care how my guy looks, but to a lot of people I know that'll be hugely important. So you can definitely show off your drip to your fellow racers. I do think it would be great if there was a little bit deeper kind of customization, but I think what they've done is really good, especially for Criterion, who have never really been known for their customization options in their racing games. So for that reason, I am generously giving the customization in Need for Speed Unbound 7 out of 10. The big one, you've been waiting for it and it's finally here, the controls. How does the game control? We all pine. For years we've pined for the lazy, drifty days of Most Wanted and Hot Pursuit to come back. Are they back? Yes, in a big, big way. The controls for this game are fantastic. You can really tell the Criterion is back in the driving seat. I really enjoyed Payback. I really enjoyed Heat. Hey, I loved the Need for Speed reboot when it came out. All of those games had amazing controls, but this game just has that Criterion touch that you can really feel. I mean, they have been working on Star Wars Battlefront and Battlefield games for a long time, and I'm sure a lot of us were worried about if they still had the zing, if they still had that flair in the company to be able to develop this amazing kind of handling and response. And they have. The cars drift around corners with ease, and this is improved if you upgrade your car with certain parts that you can then tune to have the amount of drift that you really enjoy. So there are some events called takeovers in the game where you're basically trying to build up a score to beat the other racers, and these tend to have really good prizes for coming first. And for those kind of events, you definitely want to be able to drift all over the place, and, you know, that proper burnout style drifting mechanic, which is definitely in there. And then after you've completed that and really just destroyed the opposition, you can go back into the car's tuning and make it stick to the road a little bit more. So if you're doing a road street race, you can really grip to those corners and stay on track and have a more kind of sim style. I wouldn't call it sim racing, it's definitely not sim racing, but a more refined and controlled racing experience if you need it on those roads, which I think is fantastic. It is a really good amount of kind of control that you have over how your car kind of handles and slips and slides along the road. You can tell the Criterion have put a lot of work into how the cars feel. I mean, we've had some tough ones. Shifts handling was notoriously difficult to master, and Need for Speed The Run, while I love the story and music of that game, those cars handled like tanks. Poor Black Box. Press F in the comment section for Black Box. But no, the controls, the handling, absolutely nothing to worry about. I absolutely love getting behind the wheel of the cars in this game. It is fantastic. I have literally nothing bad to say about the controls. I really think they are fantastic. I think a lot of people will love them. The reason I'm going to give this section 9 out of 10 instead of 10 out of 10 is the Criterion's handling model isn't for everyone. You've always had a lot of people that have said, oh, I want to get back to Shift, I want to get back to whatever their favourite Need for Speed game was, and there will still be those people that say that about this handling model. There are people that don't like the Criterion handling model, and that's fine, but for me it's pure arcade racing and I love it, so 9 out of 10 it is for the controls. Last up then, let's talk about the music. Now, the music is where this game, for me, falters. This is obviously a personal opinion. Music is a hugely diverse taste. Unfortunately, the music in the game really is not for me. I do not really listen to this genre of music very much, if ever, I'll be honest. However, that doesn't mean that it doesn't go well with the atmosphere and the world that this game is set in. I think racing to these tracks definitely holds merit and makes it feel exciting. You definitely won't feel like the music choices are taking away from the experience. They definitely do bring excitement to the races, so that's always a great time. It's just really not my style, which is totally fine. Everyone has different styles, and I appreciate that. However, for me, the music is not my favourite in a Need for Speed game, and for that reason, I gotta give it a 5 out of 10. Sorry, Need for Speed. So, final thoughts on Need for Speed Unbound. Well, I think we've been waiting a long time for this game, and it doesn't quite live up to the amount of time we've been waiting for it. I feel it's very similar to Heat and definitely borrows from previous entries in the franchise. That being said, it is so much fun to play that it almost doesn't even matter. It almost doesn't even matter that it's not this huge departure and reimagining of the franchise. It's just fun. It's just plain old Need for Speed fun with that added flourish of amazing Criterion handling and controls, which I bloody love. I am absolutely addicted to playing this game, and I'm going to keep on playing the game. It's fantastic. The final score for the game out of 50, considering all the categories we've gone through, is 36 out of 50, and I feel like that does sell it a bit short, putting a number on it, because you know what, as a Need for Speed fan, it's a heck of a lot of fun to play. Sure, there's cringy dialogue, sure, the music isn't to my taste, but you know what, I love driving around the city. I love the graphics and I love the handling so much that it's just fun. It's just a great time. If you are a Need for Speed fan, pick it up. You can get 10 hours free on EA Access trial, and then if you really don't like it, hey, what have you lost? Nothing. That's right. Nothing. I have been Mr. Monday. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what you think of Need for Speed Unbound down in the comments below, and don't forget to smash that subscribe button. You know what? It's lit, fam. I will see you guys next time around.